Yeah, look at that. Hey, everybody, it's Ken. Ow. I got somebody first try.
Wow.
I am here at Circle R Ranch, not so live, but I'm very, very proud to be here with Jenn Wasner.
Hey, how's it
So
going?
awesome. I've been trying to
I know.
get you to come for a visit for years, and you are so busy, and we're so busy, and then you're not busy, and we're moving, and then we're ready, and then you're busy, and it's been
a time. I've been wanting to get up here, but you know, it's not for lack of trying. And now we're here at last.
You have been go, go, go.
It's true.
Since I met you.
It's true.
So
it's the only way.
I know we've talked about this before, but I just want to, so from my perspective, like how you, because I'm going to tell you my perspective on how you got involved with the company, and then I want to hear yours.
Sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So I was sitting around minding my own business at my desk in 2010 or 11, and we weren't as busy as we are now. And I used to read just about everything that anybody tagged me in, or just about every message that we got on the fledgling social media channels at the time. And people kept sending me pictures of you and Andy. And you were playing a 3-tone burst Jetstream humbucker hardtail guitar. Yeah. And people would say, have you seen Wyoke? Have you seen this Jenn woman? Have you seen what's going on? And of course, when you hear something enough times, you're like, okay, I got to check this out. And I didn't make it out to see you live until you were touring for Civilian. And I drove over to the Beachland Ballroom. This is Toledo, so the Beachland is behind us if you're looking at Toledo.
That way.
In Cleveland. And we, it was really exciting to meet you and Andy. And you guys were so gracious to me and cool to hang out with. And you signed a couple of CDs, remember CDs?
I do. I still have so many of them. I love CDs.
And I still have my Civilian CD with your autograph on it. And Andy signed where it said Guitars next to both of you. He circled Guitars and wrote All Reverends on it. And I
that's cool. That's a cool move, Andy.
It was cool. Nice. It was very cool.
Yeah.
And we went out to dinner in Cleveland, and we've been in touch ever since. Right?
Yeah, that's spot on, I'd say.
So how did you come about getting that first Reverend?
Well, it was a friend of mine from Baltimore. You know, I was kind of, at the time, cheers, thank you. I was sort of I hadn't really found my way. And quite honestly, you know, I've always sort of been like a ideas and sounds first, gear second kind of person. So I was touring with a whole host of just different guitars that I happened to have. And the issue with that from a live perspective is I use a lot of alternate tunings. That was always the thing for me from the jump that made live stuff really challenging, was consistency. And a friend of mine was like, you know, you should check out these Reverends. They're great. They hold tune really well. And also, like, they're affordable enough. You could get a bunch of them. You could just have, you know, a few and then sort of have that consistency between the guitars that you're playing. And I went to a music store, which I think at the time was like one of the few places maybe in Maryland where I was.
It was Ricer's town.
Yeah.
And he's long gone.
Yeah. But that's where I had to go because it was like, amazing. I remember going in to check it out and I bought it on the spot and I was just like, yeah, this is the thing for me. But you know, it didn't occur to me to reach out. You made the connection, I guess, because I was playing it. That was around the time we were playing we were touring constantly. Yeah. I think we did like 200 some shows that year. So it makes sense that a lot of people were taking pictures of it to send to you. So
just for the timeline in my head, did the Walking Dead thing happen around the time the record came out, or did that happen after?
It was after.
Was it after?
But I don't really remember exactly. I have a very bad memory when it comes to this stuff. It's all kind of a blur.
Yeah.
But it was definitely after. It was well after. I want to say it was like a couple years after.
Okay.
Maybe.
Yeah, because it seemed like all of a sudden everybody knew that record. It was really, but that's an incredible achievement, obviously.
It was cool.
Yeah.
It was cool, and it was also like, it was a turning point too, because when that happens to you, if you're lucky enough to have something like that happen to you, you sort of have to make a choice about like how you want to play it. And
yeah.
And I feel really fortunate that it, you know, I feel like that was like, I'm still sort of standing on the ground that we built with that record and everything that came before it. But I also feel really fortunate that I've managed to not get pigeonholed into just that.
Yeah. Well,
That's been really,
that was 3 records in for you
yeah,
guys,
totally.
right? Or 2 records in an EP or something,
3,
right?
yeah, that was the third, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, did
Well, it was If Children, and then Not, and then Civilian was
and then
record
Civilian,
3.
and then oh,
3.
so that EP came after it.
That you did, yeah.
Oh,
I
shit.
think, don't quote me on that.
I know.
Again, like I said,
I know.
Andy's the
Sticker.
memory guy.
Well,
not me.
I go back to the EP a lot because I Hope You Die is the music that plays in my head when I'm just like doing stuff.
I'm
Like
sorry.
that, like no, but like that weird the keyboard
No.
groove.
Yeah.
The keyboard groove is so cool and it's so rhythmic and everything that like I. So, anyways,
That's cool.
sorry, I'm a fan, and that happens in this business, right?
Very sweet. Thanks.
So we started talking after Civilian when you were in the middle of that like 200 shows that we were just talking about, the nonstop playing.
Yeah.
And I remember getting you a backup guitar. I actually remember Andy calling me with a credit card for a backup guitar to replace the backup guitar you had on the road, which was really cool.
Yeah.
And then we started doing this thing where all of the jet streams started having trims on them. And because you were changing tunings on the fly so often then, having a floating trem on that guitar didn't really work for you.
Yeah, exactly.
So I just sent you a red Charger hardtail when we started doing it.
Yeah.
And the red Charger is in a lot of the early Flock of Dime stuff.
It is.
And I have some amazing pictures of you with that guitar.
Cool.
Yeah, and you sent me somehow. Anyway.
Yeah.
And then that led to Shriek coming out, which was the non-guitar centric record.
That's correct, yeah.
And
started my passionate love affair with the bass guitar.
Yeah, and
Continues to this day.
as I will go on record, I think The Tower is my favorite White Horse
Hell yeah, I love that.
And it's funny because it's the song that doesn't have guitar in it. But whatever, it's a banger. And when you had finished up touring for Shriek is when we started talking about the signature model.
Indeed, yes.
And you and Andy were putting together Tween. And there was a lot more guitar on that record, and you were excited to come back with some guitar stuff. And we had talked about, like, we had this, and I'll never forget this conversation. It was at our old shop in Livonia, and we were on the phone, and you had said something about April Camlin's art and what she did with Dazzle Camouflage on the jumper that you were wearing at the time, right?
Yeah.
And I saw a picture of it, and you had asked me if we could do like a one-off guitar with that pattern on it to go with the whole thing. And of course, we just don't do one-off guitars. That's not how our business is set up.
Of course.
So that's when I was like,
this one coming, but yeah.
Yeah. So, but it was such a great idea, and it was such a cool concept that was when I said, well, we should just make this your signature guitar.
And I appreciate it. And you know what? I think my first reaction to it was like, I couldn't possibly.
It was.
You had to talk me into it.
I had to talk
you had to talk me into it.
And that was the first time I had ever had to talk anybody because I have people crawling out of the woodwork that want signature
guitars. Of course I mean, it's an incredible honor. It wasn't that I didn't, it was more that I felt undeserving at the time than anything else. I was just like, oh, certainly not me. I mean, I don't really, and I guess this is something that I should work on or can continue to work on. I never really considered myself primarily a guitar player. And I have such a personal, like idiosyncratic, self-taught relationship with the guitar. But part of what makes, I don't know, I think part of what the conversation around like having that signature guitar, why I initially like warmed up to the idea was the idea that someone like me with that kind of relationship to guitar also is, like it counts, right? Like it is that,
that's
right?
the reason.
That's the point. Yeah,
that's the whole point.
I know. Yeah. And it's tricky because it's like I have so much respect for so many different styles and approaches and like, but it's taken me a long time to sort of understand that like my approach to it is sort of a craft in its own way. It's personal and it's specific to me, but that's what makes it special. And that's also like, I want other people to feel like the instrument is approachable for them, however they may sort of be coming at it from whatever angle they may be approaching it. So that was kind of the thing that like sealed the deal for me. Because I don't know, generally I'm like, I don't love to call a lot of attention to myself. I know that sounds silly to say, someone who's like literally sitting in front of like a bunch of cameras right now, but
no, totally.
I don't, so it's like, it's sort of like counterintuitive for me to be like, yeah, like, let me put my name on it. But I'm glad. I mean, it's like, it's one of those things that like you tell people that and they're just like, wow, that's so cool. And
Well,
it's cool.
There's so much to unpack there, but your fingerstyle approach to guitar and the tunings that you use and the things that happen that are so non-traditional, there's a rhythmic thing to your playing that is very, very hard to imitate.
Thank you.
Duplicate.
Oh,
Like,
that's so
I mean,
nice.
I see people come close, you know.
That's
One of my favorite videos, Reverend related videos, is there's this wonderful young woman that used to work for Chicago Music Exchange, whose name is escaping me right now. But she demoed one of our Charger guitars by playing Civilian.
Oh, cool.
It was really,
That's
really
really cool.
cool. And when I saw that, I was like, oh, this is fabulous, you know.
Love that.
And she did such a great job, and that's the closest I've ever seen it.
Oh, wow. Awesome. I'd love
I'll try to find
your name.
I'll try to find that and show it to you. It was very cool. And then we've done a handful of signature models here, and our whole point with the signature models is to make the guitars that people are actually playing.
Yeah.
As opposed to like some fancy thing. And
Absolutely.
And it's about more than just slapping somebody's name on something. And so it doesn't matter whether we make 20, 200 or 2,000 of something in a year. That's not what it's about. Like
Totally.
our artist roster is like really special because we have people on it that do such a wide variety of things. So out of all those signature models, your guitar has become one of these like very iconic Reverend guitars.
Oh,
like your guitar, it's true.
pretty
It's totally
noticeable,
true though. I mean, you see it from a distance and you're like, oh, I know what that is.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of undeniable. Yeah.
Right. And which is why it's so fun to still be, I appreciate you letting us do it for as long as you have.
Oh my gosh, of course.
Because it's such a fun thing just to have
Yeah.
in the book, you know, and people dig it. We still sell them, right?
It's cool. It's really, honestly, it is an honor. And like, you know, I mean, the point of guitar for me has always been to sort of like be creative. And I love what you said about like building the guitars that people actually play, because that's the thing is like as a touring musician, these guitars I've been absolutely indispensable. Like truly, I have so many of them. They've gone everywhere with me, and it's like they're just consistent. They're workhorses. They really hold up. I can yank them around in all sorts of different tunings, and it's just like it does sort of feel like a workhorse. Like the word that comes back to mind is like
perfect.
It's not something that's gonna sit, you know, it's not sitting around in my house or in my studio. It's just like it's out, it's in the mix.
That's the best.
So they've been great companions to me, and I thank you for it. Thank you.
This is version 1 with the black back and the maple neck, and I have sort of a limited edition version here, and this is just so that I can segue into Katie Harkin, because we have a mutual friend who I was working with Katie before she teamed forces with you.
Yeah,
and we had done a custom. We did a custom Tricky Gomez model for her.
Oh, cool.
For her band.
Yeah.
And then she did Flock of Dimes tour.
Yeah.
And she is a huge P90 fan.
She is.
And I was on the phone with her, which led to me calling you, asking you if you would mind if we put some soap bars in your guitar.
So glad you did that too, because I love that guitar. Is so special to me now. I use it all the time.
That's awesome.
It's really nice to have it as an option. But it never would have occurred to me to ask.
Oh, that's cool.
So I'm glad that she did.
Nice. Yeah, and this version has this dark roasted maple neck and a deep violin brown back, which kind of sets off the black and white of the top of this. And speaking of the black and white on the top of this, I would be remiss if I didn't point out that the ska community has very much taken to your instrument, which was not the intention at all.
I would have never predicted it, but I love it.
Bucket from the Toasters has one of your guitars.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, Chris DeMakes from Less Than Jake has one of your guitars that has been out on the road with him off and on for a few years.
that.
Yeah, and whenever Reverend sponsors a ska festival, I always take a couple.
Wow, I
and
love
put
that
them on
for
the
them.
merch table.
That's really great. How about it?
I know, right?
It's a funny world.
It is a funny world. Okay, so there we talked about the guitars. I want to talk about your career for a minute because since we've met, your career's been incredible.
It's been all over the place.
It's been all over the place.
Chaotic, confusing.
So, Flock of Dimes, did it start as like a band project for you, or was it like a solo project for you? Were you just because Wyoke has been so prolific over the years, and the two of you really write songs beautifully together. And I have no idea what your dynamic is, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to. But you know, was it just an opportunity for you to go off and do something on your own without the input of being, because a 50-50 band does seem like it would be very intense.
Yeah, I mean, it is, and we're really good at it, and we've done it for many years. And also, you know, the only reason that it still exists is that we've given ourselves the freedom to exist outside of it. Something I learned about myself pretty early on is that I'm never going to be satisfied just staying in one lane. And so allowing myself the flexibility to go and try and make records in a different way is a thing that makes collaboration feel exciting again. So it's like one feeds the other, right? It's like, and I think that's sort of been like one of the defining kind of like mission statements of how I make choices about what I do and who I play with and how. It's like, if you don't give yourself the freedom to experiment and grow and play, you know, it's like you lose that creative spark that's like essential to the entire operation. So yeah, it's like there's, you know, making records by yourself and being like the person that has to like make all the choices is really, really, really hard. It sounds awesome when you're like in the studio arguing with someone else to be like I just want to be able to like have complete control, and then you have complete control, and it's a nightmare because, you know, I find myself constantly just like desperate for someone else to tell me what to do. So like one sort of makes you appreciate the other.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was sort of like, I'm going to go and sort of have this outlet, this additional outlet for my own sort of like creative process. And in doing that, it sort of makes me appreciate the things about collaboration that are indispensable as well, you know.
Awesome. So how many? So then you sort of went into a cycle where you did some Flock of Dimes stuff, and then you did some Wyoke stuff, and then you did some Flock of Dimes stuff, and it was sort of going back and forth as you guys obviously took time off for whatever, and then you would run right to the other project. I think Andy ran to the beach.
No, he was not.
I know he's producing
He's
records
working.
for everybody.
He's working his ass off, and he's actually playing with our friend Roberto. Has a band called Helado Negro. He's been playing in that band.
Awesome.
Which is a fantastic band. We're both up to all sorts of this and that. But and he made a record of his own too under the name Joyero, which is fantastic.
I did not know that.
It's great. You should check it out.
Oh,
very, very good.
Check that out for sure.
But yeah, so you know.
So then, how does Bon Iver then come into this?
That was
because that was just like a weird, that all of a sudden I get an email from you like, could I get like a guitar for this, a guitar for this, because I'm doing this. I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was a weird curveball. I didn't see it coming, you know, and it was the kind of thing where it's like, that was the first time anyone really asked me, maybe not the first time, but like at that level, I had been asked to sort of play the hired gun role, which is a role that I like didn't really feel like I was necessarily qualified for before I tried to do it.
So can we go back to the conversation where I told you about like your rhythmic style and how cool it is and how like how you're like this really good guitar player thing? It didn't surprise me a bit. I thought about it for like a second and I was like, wow, that's a good choice.
I'm glad that was your reaction to it.
Yeah.
And there's definitely, at least initially, not mine, or at least it was like, maybe I can do this, but it's intimidating. And it's been a wonderful experience. I mean, I love all those guys so much. And like, you know, I think it was helpful for me to sort of understand that like my specific vocabulary and like the ideas that I bring to the table are like part of, if not the whole point of the thing. Like that's what makes me unique, is what makes me like a part, like a part of a band that makes sense. So that's been really fun. But yeah, that was just a total surprise. You know, I wasn't looking for it. It just came to me.
That's
And
incredible.
I've learned so much, and like it's just been such a fun adventure to be a part of that band.
I have limited experience with them. He bought a jet stream, I think,
Oh yeah,
years ago from Chicago Music
yeah, yeah.
Exchange.
There was a couple Reverends on tour, I think, with us in the Guitar Vault.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
And I heard it's still out there, you
It
know.
is,
And
yeah.
I spoke with their management 10, 12 years ago now. And
Yeah.
they were just, well, we're not really interested in working with any gear
Well, that was
manufacturers. And I was like, respect.
Yeah.
But I had to ask,
Yeah,
you
of
know,
course.
because that's the thing. So I'm very flattered that has stayed.
Oh, it's in
on
the
road.
vault for sure.
Very cool.
I think there's one. I can't remember what the song is. There's one song that's like that's the specific guitar for that.
That's
song.
great. That's amazing. Because I hear about that.
Yeah.
People, you know, people will go to a show and then I'll get, you know, as our business grows and I meet more and more people working in the industry, I still hear about, hey, I went to see Bon Iver last night and this woman was playing guitar. She was playing your guitars. And I'm like, yeah, I know who that is. Yeah,
I know. Yeah. We've met.
Right. We've met. Yeah. Oh, that's so cool. Okay, so let's wrap it up with what you're doing now.
Sure.
Because we were fortunate enough to have you here on this stage performing as Flock of Dimes with Alan. And is Flock of Dimes the two of you now? Are you regressing into having a two-person band?
No. Flock of Dimes is a dictatorship.
Okay.
Helmed only by me.
Okay, so it's whatever you say it is at any given time.
Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, that's good life goals.
No, it's still, but you know, I mean, everybody knows that the last few years have been pretty wild, and particularly for everyone, but for musicians as well.
Sure.
Touring, the mid-level touring economy has taken a lot of hits. And if there's one thing that I have learned over the years, it is like resilience and adaptability is essential to sort of like continuing to have a functional career in music. And so touring with a band in a van with like a, you know, paying for hotel rooms every night, it's like, it gets pretty expensive. And I wanted to see what was possible if we sort of stripped away as much of the trappings of like conventional touring as possible.
Okay.
And just sort of went directly to people in their spaces. And so my friend Dave Bazan, who has been playing music for years and years, and he has a band called Pedro the Lion, and it's like he's the best. He is one of my favorite musicians, and he's been doing these tours with a organization called Undertow. So they've been doing these, what they call like living room tours. And it's essentially just like, you decide where you want to go. So like I decide what cities I want to visit and when. And then we reach out to folks and we're like, do you want to volunteer? Do you want to host a show in your house, in your living room, like in your basement, wherever, you know? So people volunteer. I'm literally driving to someone's house in Detroit, like after this, and we'll get there and, you know, people come and we just have like a really nice, cozy time together. And it's amazing. I absolutely love it. I really feel like I have like found a way of touring that just like feels very much like me. It's very like authentically aligned with like the kind of person I am and sort of like how I want my music to be in the world. It allows me to meet and have conversations with so many lovely people. Musically, it's a delight. And so like, yeah, we're just like, Alan Parker, who's a fantastic guitar player who I've been playing with for some years now. Like,
oh, you'll see. There's some other videos. The videos probably be found over here or something.
Over there.
You go to like Circle Our Sessions, Flock of Dimes.
Click over there. But yeah, so
Amazing.
we're driving around in my Prius, keeping that overhead low, going straight to the people. It's a blast. I love it. It's really fun.
Amazing. Well, thanks for coming here, and thanks for performing here, and thanks for sitting down with me.
My pleasure, Ken.
I really appreciate it.
I'm sorry it took me this long, but thanks for all.
Well, I mean, we'll stay in touch, and of course, obviously, if you ever need anything from us, you know where to find us. And everybody, check out all of her projects, past, present, and future. Always, Jenn Wasner. Thank you.
Hey, thanks. I appreciate that. Thanks for all the support over the years.